Hey friends, how we doing? I'm back again with another video. I'm just playing around with my backdrop a little bit because I'm not quite sure where I want to sit and film these videos, but this feels like a nice space. Anyway, if you're new here, my name is Molly and I am really into manifestation, mindset work, energetics, subconscious, all those delicious, wonderful things. I figured this was a nice space for us to just hang out, have a chat, and for me to just share my thoughts on something I've learned about and how it's helped me, and hopefully maybe even inspire others as well. So today I want to talk about how I have started to move into becoming the highest version of myself and how I've started to collapse time and doing that. This journey into moving into the highest version of myself has been quite an interesting one, purely because I didn't really understand what people were saying to begin with when they said about like becoming the highest version of yourself. I was like, fundamentally, I understand the structure of that sentence, but I didn't know what it meant for me and how I could put that into practice and what that looks like day to day. Between a few meditations and quite a lot of research, I've kind of boiled down a few of the things that I have been doing that have started to move me into that energetic space of aligning with my highest self. Very much still on this journey, and I will say that like not every day I feel like the highest version of myself, but I've certainly connected with that version of myself, and now I understand what that feels like and what that looks like for me. So it's easier for me now to articulate what it looks like day to day and some of the steps I've taken. So the first thing that I did, and this is kind of maybe an obvious one but also maybe not, was that I actually started to envision what that version of me did. I really got really specific about what kind of clothes that I wear, what kind of habits I have, what my morning looks like. So the highest version of me, she gets up in the morning and she makes a really beautiful cup of coffee. She's in really lovely pajamas. She's walking around and she's reading something that's really interesting, whether it's a book or an article. So my morning as my highest version of myself looks like that. That is the energy that I embody, and that is the kind of energy that I carry throughout the day. I actually wrote a lot of it down as well, like even how I would, like, what kind of characteristics would the highest version of me have? What would they wear? What activities would they do? What would they do for fitness? What would they eat? What would their morning routine look like? All of those wonderful things. And actually having it written down meant that it was something that I could then refer back to when I was starting to really move into this space. Once I kind of got that energy of the highest version of myself, I then started to move into moving stagnant energy out of my immediate space, so in my home. So the thing that took the hit first was my wardrobe. So I started to go through my clothes and I was like, would the highest version of me wear this piece of clothing? No, they wouldn't. And does this make me feel like the best version of myself when I wear this piece of clothing? No, it doesn't. So anything and anything that was giving me energy that didn't make me feel good, I was bagging up and I was donating. For me, I didn't want to hang on to things because I felt like I had to. And I actually, in those moments, it felt really liberating because I was letting go of old versions of me that were, some of them, no word of a lie, were from like 15 years ago. And I think I have evolved so much as a person since then. So why am I still holding on to clothes that still aren't aligned with me anymore? So actually starting to move that stagnant energy out of my wardrobe and actually then rotating in and bringing in clothes that every time I put them on, I was like, yes, I feel really good in this and I feel really empowered and I feel like this is what the highest version of me would wear. It made every single day when I was getting dressed just feel like I was the highest version of myself. So with that as well, not only were my clothes holding on to like stagnant energy and I was moving out the stagnant energy that my clothes were holding, I started to do that with bits and pieces that I had around the house. Just, perhaps old books that I was holding on to, or craft projects that I'd started and not finished because, I actually decided it wasn't something I was interested in, and I felt guilty that I should finish this thing. And, I'd had this in the cupboard for 2 years, and that the reality was I was never going to finish the project. So I was like, it's okay to let these go. You've tried something, you've investigated something that you thought was aligned with you in those moments, and actually they don't align with you now, and it's okay to let them go. And that was something that actually I found quite challenging, because I think letting go of old possessions that really no longer had a purpose for me felt very, very unsettling, because it was really leaning into letting go of old versions of myself. And actually, when I started to do that, I noticed that my nervous system was getting quite activated and that I was feeling very anxious about doing it. When you start moving through this space, and you start actually coming out of one energetic space and moving into a higher version of yourself, it is uncomfortable and it will make you anxious. And certainly for me, it was letting go of things that felt comfortable and normal and familiar. I think was the biggest thing. It was the familiarity of these old things I was holding on to, but actually it was moving into the unfamiliar and the new energy that actually I had to reframe and tell myself that actually it was really, really exciting that this was happening. Another thing I started doing was actually really looking into how my ego was coming up, and actually thinking about moments where perhaps like old versions of me might have wanted to join in, and actually speak really negatively about anything and everything that I could speak negatively about, rather than, and like internalizing negativity so that it was about me, and actually really letting go of that side of it and going, like, this is just your ego talking. Like, the highest version of you doesn't internalize this kind of stuff unless someone is directly coming to you and saying to you, I didn't like the way you did this. 9 times out of 10, it isn't about you. So, in all honesty, like, that is kind of where I'm at currently with moving into the highest version of myself, is repetition and practice of feeling into the energy of how the highest version of me feels. And that is energetic, confident, abundant, joyful, grateful, all of those wonderful things. And actually living in that energy and really feeling into that energy, which is so wonderful. And then also then practicing how the highest version of me shows up day to day, what the morning routine looks like, what I wear every day, what I feed my body, all of those wonderful things. And just practicing doing that every single day, already I feel like I have shifted out of this mindset that I was in before, where I felt really like I couldn't possibly achieve anything and that nothing was possible for me. Whereas now, the highest version of me knows that I am a limitless being with limitless potential, and I can quite literally achieve anything that I set my mind to. And that's really, really cool. And that's such a fun headspace to be in. And I literally love being there. And I don't plan on ever coming out of that headspace, because it's wonderful to be in there. That being said, it's practicing being in that headspace, because again, when you are shifting in those timelines, it can be really, really uncomfortable, and your nervous system can start panicking, going, whoa, 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 what are you doing? We've never done this before. This is brand new. What are you doing? And for me, it's calming myself in those moments and saying, it's okay, we're safe. We're absolutely safe to be doing this. There's nothing wrong, nothing bad's going to happen. We're just doing an experiment. And actually, that's been really, really fun as well, is kind of gamifying it a bit and going, okay, we're just going to experiment being the highest version of myself. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that's going to happen? Once you start feeling into that energy and doing that, you will start seeing a shift. I would implore you to really take a moment, find some meditation, even go on YouTube and look for a guided meditation that helps you move into the highest version of yourself, and just sit and do that experience. And just as an experiment, just for fun, see how that feels. Have a go at doing the meditation. And if you want, write it down afterwards. Write down what you experienced, what that highest version of you looked like, how they carried themselves, what they did when they saw you as you are now. And then write that down and see if there's anything that you can start doing right now. Whether it is just having that really glorious, like, highest version of yourself morning, or wearing an outfit that makes you feel like the highest version of yourself, and see how your energy starts to shift. Write down those feelings and write down how that made you feel that day. Let me know down in the comments if this is something that you've started to experiment with moving into the highest version of yourself. Honestly, it's so fascinating to me, and I'd love to know if anybody else is doing anything like this, or anything that you found to be really helpful moving into the highest version of yourself. I'd love to hear what's going on for you as well. Thank you so much for being here and for staying for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and feel free to subscribe for more content like this. And as always, remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to others, and have an amazing day. See you later. Bye.